Hello again. We're back for part 4. This is the interview I'm going to have with Goldie. He's been impacted by this diagnosis. We have some important issues to discuss here. We decided to have it inside my home. Lots of scattered showers here today. We don't want to get caught in the rain, and it's actually quite hot, so it's a lot cooler in here. And I wanted to show you basically around my apartment. I love altars. I've posted a lot of this online to show honor for our ancestors, for the Kemet and Pantheon, whose archetypes of consciousness are very important when studying self-healing. And of course my cosmic mother Nephthys, the twin sister of Isis, who's Sirius A. Nephthys is Sirius B. And here's my buddy, Goldie Williams. Goldie's going to be joining us today. I want to really say thank you to him for having the courage to appear on camera. I thought this would be a perfect spot because we're right by my body tracing, which to me is everything when it comes to the metaphysics of self-healing. Starting at the root chakra, the sacral, the solar plexus, the heart, throat, third eye, and crown. A very important thing, and I believe it's going to be the wave of the future, is a new form of healing, self-healing. Understanding the principles of the chakras, that all is one, honoring one another, respecting yourself. Love is divine power. Surrender personal will to divine will, seeking only the truth, and living in the present moment of awareness. And then an understanding of the dormant energy that lies in the base of the spine, and when awakened, rises through the chakra column and raises consciousness awareness. So here we are today with Goldie. Just before we get started, I want you to know a little bit about Goldie. I met him when I first moved back to Birmingham and got up the courage to actually be a part of Facebook. He discovered my work. He contacted me. And from that day, he's been in my world and I've been in his. He was, again, my cameraman at the other presentation at Birmingham Southern College. We just had a great lunch at an Indian restaurant. And the reason I have Goldie here today is to speak to us about how receiving an HIV positive diagnosis has impacted his life. And for me, it's a little bit difficult to do this portion because I feel so adamant about my knowledge about what the main problem is. And so, in keeping with the spirit that we began in part 2 with the interview of the gentleman in 5 Points, I want to remain respectful of his views and sensitive to what he's been through. You know, getting out there and exposing your life was a major hurdle that I had to overcome. I had to get over my fears about that, and I hope you've appreciated that. The investment that I've made in bringing this information to you, maintaining a website, creating presentations for YouTube, publishing my book, marketing my book. All of those cost money. Even buying books to keep up with knowledge is an investment. And so I want to encourage you all, if you're a scholarly type, to continue to do that. You can't really put a price on knowledge. But anyway, here we are with Goldie. Goldie, thank you for being here with us today.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure.
Goldie's not really talkative like I am, so what I want him to do is just share with you what he'd like to share about his unfortunate diagnosis and how it has impacted him. Take it away, Goldie.
Okay. I was unfortunately diagnosed with being HIV positive And since then, my life has really been kind of difficult dealing with the direct effects of the medications, which the doctors tried to tell me that it was due to a virus, but after doing my research, I realized that it really wasn't a virus, because of once I decided to take steps to stop taking the meds, my symptoms eased up tremendously. So that I was able to connect, connect the dots of what was going on with me. Unfortunately, I'm still suffering some physical ailments, like as you can see, like with my legs, due to like wounds that was formed from the antiretrovirals. It's just really been like an emotional process, just trying to determine what is truth from lies or whatever. With the help of Damian, he's really been helpful to me and encouraging me to stay out the antiretrovirals, and it's a process when you feel like you're doing it like by yourself. So I really do appreciate his help of helping me get off the meds or whatever. So I'm thankful for him.
Thank you for sharing that. I do want to make clear, though, as I have been since I've been doing this line of work, that I am not a medical doctor. I'm a doctor of metaphysical science, and I never tell a person what to do. What I do is point them in the direction of the resources that are a major part of the HIV descent community. And I also mentioned that people need to be able to know that there is another side to any issue, and they have a right to choose whatever they decide is best for them regarding their own health. So let me say this, that when I met Goldie, he was a lot slimmer than he is now. His skin did not look as well as it does now. And I was really concerned for him because, as you know, and I've taught online about what actually happens when you begin those drugs. In my book, I write about what I went through. I took those drugs for for a year. 2 in the morning, 2 at night. All of those are in my interviews. I've detailed that, so I don't want to repeat it here. So we can keep this one as short as needed. But anyway, it was a major step for me to make a decision that those drugs were harming me. I had no physical symptoms when I began taking them after receiving that diagnosis. There's so much horror that goes on with receiving this diagnosis. I tend to like to keep those moments as private as possible and try to keep a happy face, but HIV is devastating to people. It is devastating to their families, and the stigma lasts a lifetime. There's no intimacy, there's a threat of imprisonment, there is physical disability. And as I've taught online, peripheral neuropathy is one of the direct effects. People have been trained, conditioned to say side effects. They aren't side, they are direct. And peripheral neuropathy is when you have numbness in your fingers and toes. That's how it starts. I've seen people sitting up with leg pumps on, which makes a noise and pumps the circulation to and throughout the body because the drugs have stopped it. You say you've had that?
Yeah.
He's had that. Some men, we find in Africa a lot, develop breast. Guy don't come after you. Imagine that, a man developing breast from taking drugs, thinking that it's helping him. How absurd is that? Whoever's responsible for this is sinister in a major way. Yeah. And then it gets worse. Where I lived in Atlanta, it was nothing to see a guy, usually a black guy, a black gay guy, walking up Peachtree toward the train station, hobbling. It's called irregular gait. The drugs are so damaging that they damage the neuromuscular system, almost to the point where you become immobile. And then, of course, after that, the next step is death. So this is a very serious issue. Most people think this doesn't impact them. You know, they market this thing as a gay disease. Then they got Magic Johnson to route it into the black community. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, it became black women. You know, and all along, I knew something wasn't right. Thanks to my critical thinking skills that I've spoken about in the previous section, I was able to remove myself from this horror 22 years ago. And now all I deal with basically was healing my addictions and the lifelong stigma, you know, freedom or not freedom, inability to be in an intimate relationship. Humans need touch, humans need love. But with this diagnosis, mostly because most people keep it a secret, it's really something major to adjust with. And I want Goldie, if he will, to speak about some of his physical symptoms. Behind me, again, you can see the chakra chart and the principles that go along with it. I teach people that if you can identify which area of the body is being affected, for instance, the solar plexus, that's the third one up from the bottom. Its principle is to respect yourself. Well, if on your job, in your relationship with your boss, maybe your people at church who are taking advantage of you because you've learned to turn the other cheek and be all things for everyone, that energy of the body can lose energy. And a prolonged period of disrespecting yourself causes physical illness. And if you know that, if you know that you are in violation of any of these principles, you can make a conscious decision through a number of techniques: right thinking, proper nutrition, and a willingness to change yourself from within rather than calling on something or someone outside yourself to save you. Now, that was 4 years ago when I met Goldie. To be frank, I expect to see him in a lot greater health. So there's a reason that he's not at optimal health. And going forward, I'll help him pinpoint some of those areas. And then we can strategize him returning to full health. Again, I don't have any physical symptoms because I have abided by the principles of the chakras. When I get sick, I take a look at myself and I become self-responsible, willing to make changes in myself. We don't realize it, but we are creators of our own world. Every moment of it. Even in the end, receiving this diagnosis, I learned that I needed this level of abuse to really become aware of my own inner power. Any illness that you have, you've created it. Stop blaming anyone else but yourself. And that's the first step to self-healing. You are not going to heal. You may take a pill, you may cut out an organ, but all you're doing is covering up the underlying problem that's still festering there. That's very dangerous. And during this time, with the higher vibratory energies coming to the planet, you need to raise your vibration through raising your consciousness, or you will experience illnesses, breakups, job loss. Anything you are not doing to become self-responsible when it comes to consciousness is going to become a major problem. That sounds a bit harsh, but it is truth. And so I want to encourage you to delve into the resources on the site, in my book, other books like mine, and begin to meditate on making change. Goldie, would you discuss briefly some of your physical symptoms that you wish you did not have and that you believe that you can rid yourself of?
Well, when I first started taking the medications, and I'm still suffering from the direct effects of it, from frequent urination. Like my bladder is like extremely weak. So, but it's getting. I mean, now since I've been like treating it, it's getting better. Skin lesions, like sores all over my body. Like up and down my arms. I had them on my feet. It was like just a lot of stuff, and I suffered from extreme diarrhea. Then it went from extreme diarrhea to extreme constipation. So like it's just like some of it, but it was a lot to go through just from taking the one pill or one anti-retroviral a day. So something that was supposed to be helping me, but it was causing me much more agony than help. So it was bad.
Thank you, Golden. This morning I posted about Carolyn Arua Shola, Carolyn Niece, and now I want to talk about Louise Hay. During the 80s, when many people were being diagnosed with this, many people were dying, she came in with, I believe, the saving grace, and it has made me who I am today in learning that consciousness creates our illnesses. It's just that simple. Consciousness is everything. It is the only thing. It is all there is. Consciousness is God. God is consciousness. And we are conscious beings raising in awareness. Now, Goldie just told us the symptoms that he had. And what I'm going to tell him today, again, I'm going to go through them one by one. And I'm going to tell you, when you receive this diagnosis, or when somebody tells you that who you are is not worthy of health, particularly if you're gay and, people are telling you you're an abomination all the time. I went through years of that. It took me years to shed that kind of ludicrous thinking. And anybody that knows me know I will fight to the death for my right to be. And I mean that. But more importantly is fighting for the right for me to develop myself. Goldie mentioned that he had extreme diarrhea. Diarrhea is anger running off. Who's not angry from living a life when people are telling you that you don't deserve to love yourself? I had major issues with that. He mentioned the skin. The skin is the outer protection, what we show the world of ourselves. I remember when I was teaching school as a school teacher, before I even knew this information, I would have to point to things on the chalkboard, point to things on the desk, but I had little rashes on my hand and on my elbows. And then when it got cooler in the wintertime, I was wearing long sleeve shirts to cover up the little rashes on my elbows, because I did not know at that time of the chakras. I even had conjunctivitis. All of this stuff is in the book. What was the other one you said? Diarrhea, skin?
Bladder issues, kidneys,
bladder,
and
kidney is.
All of it's connected. Kidney, liver, and
yes.
Kidney, liver, and bladder.
Kidneys mean if we have a problem with our kidneys, we are pissed off. We're angry, and the body will manifest that. So looking at anger issues, how can I become a better person in relation to myself and the people around me, so that I manage anger in a better way? And the body does not lie. It cannot lie. And gods cannot be sick when they're in the awareness that they are conscious beings. That's a major point. People want their doctor to come and heal them, and hey, they'll be happy to, prescribe you whatever, cut out your organs, because, it's their job. And if you're not the kind of person that's willing to become self-responsible, then they serve a valuable purpose. But in this age, we are moving toward self-responsibility and self-healing. And you, like I, and everyone else can do it. There are many books out there. Again, her name is Louise Hay. Her book is called You Can Heal Your Life. Don't you really want that? I know I do. In every area of life, I want to be healed. And I am going to be. I am healed right now. But again, the body and all its parts serve spiritual, symbolic significance. The heart is the center of love. The eyes represent the capacity to see past, present, and future clearly. The ears represent the ability to hear the truth. The throat is the center of expression and expressing yourself honestly. Legs carry you forward through life. Hands hold life experiences. Nails represent protection. Our liver represents how we deal with anger. So, if we got a problem in any of those areas, guess who? Who needs to look at themselves? Now, the drugs aren't doing all the bad part. You are doing it to yourself. A lot of people don't want to hear that when I tell them all the things that they need to work on. They want to say, oh, that's not me, I'm not like that. Bull crap. Everybody has to get real with themselves these days. I have to get real with myself every day in order to continue to do this work. And so I want to thank Goldie again for being here with me in my home, spending the day with me. I've gotten to know a lot more about him. Goldie is a cosmetologist. He specializes in locks and braids. You know, everywhere he goes, he can make money. So when people were rejecting him early on and he was worried about whether he was going to have a place to live, I encouraged him that he could make it, he could do it. I felt when I was in Atlanta, I was running a homeless shelter right out of my home, giving away clothes, feeding people, giving them a place to sleep off the street. Because that's how serious this is. Our people have been rejecting their own so vehemently because they've been miseducated in church, by doctors, and by uninformed people who thinking they know what's best, or being misled by all the confusion and information that's being put out there. That was an intended effort on the part of the elite to put so much out there that you couldn't figure out heads from tails. But if this happens to you, you'll probably be contacting me. And when you get to me, you're getting one last chance. That's what I've learned. Those who don't listen, I later learned that they're no longer with us. I'm not making that up. But everybody who does, looks into this on their own, they heal. Their body comes back. Energy starts flowing again in through their chakras. Everything clears up and they go back to living as normal a life as possible given lifelong HIV stigma. That's what we've got to work on. Not pushing out people in our community who need us. Nobody wants to be alone. Nobody wants to die in silence. Hence that term, silence death. People dying alone because of your fears. And that is no longer acceptable. So that's why we're having this program, education. On tomorrow, I will venture into Bessemer. Bessemer is where the book event is going to be held on, come on in a little bit closer, on August 19th at the public library. Again, my book is on the library shelves here in will be in Tuscaloosa. They're at Avondale Station. They're at the central office, Vestavia, and again, Bessemer. We're going to go down there because, like I said in part one, everywhere there are many black people, it is under attack. Oh, please let me get this in. You mentioned about CD4 counts. You know, I'm so fortunate I never got into all that. I know that scientists make money, they get grants, so they got to come up with something in the lab that they can put a name on and then make people feel like if they have this or that number, then they're healthy or ill health. Goldie taught me something today. Like I said, I didn't need all that.
Okay, with the CD4 counts, they use it to determine whether you have HIV or what they consider AIDS. Like 200 or less T cells, the CD4 count is considered AIDS or whatever. So, but that's just a way of them to see if you're taking the medications. Like if you take your medications on regularly like you're supposed to, your CD4, your T cell counts will be higher, and they'll convince you that you're, if it's like above 200, you're fine. You just have HIV. But if it's low from not taking the meds, you have 200 less, you have AIDS or whatever. But it's really all just baloney anyway, though. It's crap.
Wow.
It don't have anything to do with health. Like a lot of other like medical doctors have done like experiments on it, and they've like exposed it, like Gary Null and all those people too. So it's
Yeah.
so
In all of my other presentations, I mentioned all of the major HIV descent scholars, and I want to repeat again that I'm the hardest working one there is. I do this every day, and I am the living proof. Unlike those people, they are wonderful professionals, but they're not going through it. I am, and I work basically free of charge, so people don't have to go through the trauma of all of that. Now, he just told us that you get higher CD4 counts when you're taking the drugs.
Yeah.
What?
You know, that's supposed to.
Which
determine your
means
health.
they're encouraging you to kill yourself.
Yeah.
But if the number gets low,
Low.
they tell you you're moving toward AIDS.
Yeah, or you have AIDS, 200 or 200.
200 or below is AIDS. How low have yours? They ever told you yours were?
At one point, my lowest was 2, and that's been like years ago.
2?
And I'm not dead yet.
Okay.
'Cause I never really fell for it.
Golden said once he had to be revived. He felt that he had died and they brought him back to life. That means he is here for a purpose. We all get those pushes and taps and nudges and shoves, and then we get knocked down, we get knocked out, and then you know what comes next, 6 feet under. So try to learn the lesson that your illness is trying to teach you by observing those principles of the chakras and realigning yourself, realigning your consciousness, realigning your body, which is God technology. Gods cannot be sick. That's illusion. So anyway, I could run on forever. I didn't realize it had gone this long, but I needed to get that in. We need to begin to learn to heal ourselves and stop giving away our money, giving away our power. Now, get onto my website, get onto my presentations. My Metaphysics of Self-Healing has the most views out there because it is excellent. And I'm happy to be able to bring that to you. Also, if you ever want to speak to me privately, have a consultation, go to the site, the Contact Us section, fill out that little form there, and then it'll come to me as an email, and we can set up something so you can heal. When I get sick, I heal myself. All right? I'm going to let you all go now, and then I'll see you again, hopefully on tomorrow from Bessemer, Alabama, where we are under attack. But we are busting up Bogus HIV in Birmingham and worldwide. Count on it. Goodbye.